It was on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when James met Clara. The rain had started without warning, tapping on rooftops and cobblestones with an almost musical rhythm. James, who had forgotten his umbrella as usual, ducked into the first shelter he could find, a small bookstore squeezed between two forgotten buildings in Edinburgh's old town. The air inside smelled like old pages, dust, and something floral, perhaps from the potpourri jar by the counter. It was warm and dimly lit, with narrow aisles, crooked shelves, and books stacked in cozy disarray. The kind of place that felt like it had been waiting for you. James wasn't looking for anything in particular. Maybe just a place to catch his breath. She was already there, standing by the poetry section, her coat slightly damp, hair pinned up haphazardly. Her fingers moved over the spines of the books like she was greeting old friends. She noticed him. Their eyes met briefly. A flicker of something. A spark. "Bad weather," she said casually, not looking away from the books. "The best kind," James replied. He wasn't usually this brave. But something about her presence quieted his nerves. She smiled, tilting her head slightly, as if sizing him up. "Do you like poetry?" "Not enough to stand in the rain for it," he joked, then added, "but I like the sound of it when someone else reads it." She laughed, a soft, melodic sound. "Then you're lucky." I read aloud. That was how it began. Over the next few weeks, James returned to the bookstore every day. Sometimes they talked about books. Sometimes about music, or how people often forget to look up at the sky. He learned that her name was Clara. That she worked as a freelance illustrator. That she loved walking in the rain because it made the world feel like a secret. She learned that James was a writer, though he hadn't published anything in years. He was stuck on a novel that never seemed to end. "I think I'm afraid to finish it," he admitted once. "Like if I do, the story will stop mattering." Clara nodded. "Maybe the ending isn't the problem," she said. "Maybe you're just waiting for something or someone that makes it worth finishing." After that, they were rarely apart. They became a rhythm. Mornings spent over coffee and mismatched mugs. Afternoons in the bookstore, sitting cross-legged on the floor, reading passages aloud to each other. Evenings walking home through lamplit streets, hands brushing, sometimes not speaking at all. They never used the word forever, but it hung in the air around them, quietly understood. James started writing again. But not his novel, at least, not at first. He wrote letters. To Clara. Sometimes he'd leave them tucked under her pillow. Sometimes folded into her sketchbook. Love letters that rambled, poetic nonsense full of metaphors and raw, unfiltered thoughts. She loved them. She saved every one. They talked of the future in small, meaningful ways. A cottage by the sea. A dog named Elliot. Maybe a garden where she could grow herbs and he could write at a desk by the window. Their dreams were soft, unhurried. They never needed grand declarations. Their love lived in the quiet moments, shared silence, stolen glances, warm hands in cold weather. But life, as it so often does, has its own story. One winter morning, Clara fainted while making tea. The tests came quickly. Then the waiting. Then the words. Terminal. Inopérable. 6 months, maybe less. James felt the ground tilt beneath him. Clara, in her quiet strength, seemed to steady it. "I'm not afraid," she said one night as they lay together, her head on his chest. "Not really. I just... You wanted more time. With you." James didn't cry in front of her. He saved his grief for the night, when she was asleep, and the silence in their home felt unbearable. He stayed with her through everything. Every appointment, every treatment that left her more tired, more fragile. He read her poetry when she couldn't lift the book. He held her hand when she forgot where she was. He whispered to her the stories they'd planned, the sea cottage, the dog, the herb garden. And still, he wrote her letters. Spring came late that year. Clara passed away on a quiet morning, just as the cherry blossoms began to bloom outside their window. James found her final letter in the typewriter, the one he hadn't touched in weeks.
My love, if you're reading this, then I am already gone. I'm sorry for the silence. But I needed to leave you something with words, since you always gave me so many beautiful ones. You gave me more than a life. You gave me a world. I want you to finish your novel. even if it hurts. Even if I'm not there to see the last page. Write it for both of us. And when you do, write me in the ending. Let me live there. Let us live there, where the sea is always near, and you never run out of letters. Thank you for loving me. Clara.
James sat with the letter for hours, the words blurring behind tears he no longer tried to hide. A year passed. Then another. He never wrote another love letter. But he did finish the novel. It was about a man who finds love in the quietest corner of the world, and loses it too soon. About how grief doesn't end, but changes. How memory becomes a kind of second heartbeat. He wrote Clara into every page, every scene. He wrote her laughter into the dialogue, her sketches into the margins. He let her live again, in ink and paper. And every year, on the first day of spring, James returns to the bookstore where it all began. He stands by the poetry shelf and swears, just for